Hi, my name is Torsten Nell. I'm the previous owner of the Saab TurboX here at the National Saab Museum. And I wanted to share with you some of my experiences with Saab, how I got into Saabs, how I started to like them. And then I wanted to talk about this car in particular. I saw my first Saab in 1989. I grew up in East Germany, and that time the wall came down and I got the opportunity to go to West Berlin. At that time actually I lived in East Berlin. So the wall came down, I go over and I see all these amazing cars. And then on the Kudamm, which is the center of West Berlin, I see this amazingly ugly car. It was a convertible, but very oddly shaped, very unusually shaped. But it had the name Saab on it, and it sounded to me like ABBA, and I liked ABBA a lot. I like Swedish stuff in general, so I got intrigued. And over the years, I really started to appreciate the shape of Saabs. I like their arrow shape. I like the steep front window, and it just looked differently. I had no ideas about where the make came from and what it means, but later I read their history. Something like 11 engineers, airplane engineers after World War II, building a car that looks like an airplane wing. And the front wheels were covered with metal so that in the snow, it would accumulate the snow. You couldn't even turn the wheels anymore and not go around the corners. I found this really intriguing, to build a car that cannot go around corners when it drives in snow, especially in Sweden. So I really thought these are funny people, and that's the kind of engineering I really like. Anyway, in Germany it's very difficult to own a Saab. It's everybody drives BMWs and Volkswagens and Audis and stuff like this. And yeah, in 1997 we came to the Bay Area. I work in the semiconductor industry, and I noticed a lot of Saabs on the road. We found a Saab dealership close by. Nevertheless, at that time we didn't have the money to buy a new car, let alone a Saab. So we had something else. But then in 2002 we bought our first wagon, a 9.5. I took my wife to all the dealerships, BMW, Mercedes, and at the end I said, now let me show you what I really want. And we went to the Saab dealership and had a 9.5 there, and we bought it on the spot. That was our first car, and then in 2008 we needed a second car, and I looked up, the craziest Saab I could see, and that was the TurboX. At that time it was just being announced, it was not available yet, so I signed up something like 6 months before it was actually shippable, which was probably a big mistake because I could not negotiate any pricing. I showed too much interest in that car. I always liked wagons. I think sedans are a waste of space. Why would you cut off that volume in the back of your car? I like wagons and hatchbacks. So I wanted that one, and I wanted a stick shift because I didn't want my kids to drive it. But later turned out that they really preferred stick shift. But anyway, it was a good decision. I like driving stick shifts. Also, it said in the advertisement that if you really want to experience this car, it has to be a stick shift. So I got the stick shift. It took forever to get the car. I went a lot to the dealership, and they told me stories like there was a ship and it sank with a ton of Saabs. Turned out that happened in 2002, not 2008. But eventually the car arrived, and that was everything I wanted. The suspension is very, very tight. Once you drive it, any other car will feel like a flying sofa. I like a really tough suspension. And the turbo is amazing. If you start on the traffic light, it's not like you can really compete against the Toyota, but between 50 and 70 miles an hour, it accelerates like hell. The turbo boost, when it kicks in, it's just amazing driving. We took that car to a lot of places, Sierra Nevada. For a while we had two Saabs. It was beautiful to drive with two Saabs to the Sierra Nevada and LA, and we had a lot of fun in that car. I think we drove it for a while too slow because it turned out that there were some issues with the turbo, and the dealership couldn't fix it. So I went onto the internet, I read everything about Saabs, and I found there's a little $50 plastic turbo boost pressure valve that can get clogged. So we went to the dealership and told them, you put this thing in, and it rocked. And since then the car drives again, very beautifully. Yeah, I like Saabs. The good thing about it is I would still, if they would still be around, I would still buy one, because I think it's the most reasonable way to get an exclusive car. You don't pay much, but it's a very exclusive car. Very few people drive it. Also, when you're German, when people talk to you, they expect that you drive a BMW or a Mercedes or something, a German car. If you don't, they would ask you why. You have to explain yourself. If you pick a German car, they would ask you why not the other. So if you say I would drive a Saab, there's no why. There's just the question is what. And you know, normally the conversation stops right there, so you don't get dragged into car conversations. It's a world on its own. So yeah, I like Saab very much. I would like to see Trollhättan. Actually, when we bought the car, there was a benefit that went with it that also told me I paid too much. The benefit was that I could go on a racetrack in Atlanta with the Saab people and race Saab TurboXs. I couldn't go, but my wife went. We have nice pictures of her with a racing helmet, and she enjoyed very much. So overall, great car, great driving. Too bad Saab doesn't exist anymore, but maybe that's the legacy, you know. It's just if there would be Saab, if it would be big and would grow like Porsche or even Bentley, making now all sorts of SUVs and stuff, it wouldn't be Saab anymore. So rest in peace. And yeah, enjoy the museum and have a good look around. Thank you. Goodbye.